us on the show. You
You're
look
welcome.
fabulous, and I love the concept
Thank you
of
so
Tuesday
much.
morning empowerment.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I am Zaynah Khanbhai, an African womanpreneur, born and raised Kenyan. Sometimes I have a hard time convincing people that that's the case, especially Kenyans. I'm wananchi. I am a conscious business leader, and in that capacity, the CEO of a company called Merging Mundos. Worlds. Mundos means worlds in Spanish, and the focus of the company is South-South collaboration. One of the most exciting programs that we have going on under the company is related to women empowerment, and it looks at transforming women-led initiatives in agriculture and turning them into agri-businesses, transforming women farmers into agripreneurs, and making those initiatives investable enterprises. And we do that through 3 pillars. Self-development and self-growth, which is fundamentally related to what we call empowerment. And education in knowledge and information and exchange and technology and innovation from South America into Kenya. And the development of leadership in community. So how do I express who I am and what I know in a sphere of influence in community?
What I like about what both of you do is that you're not only leaders, but you're training leaders as well in different ways, yeah? And today we want to talk about women who are in leadership positions. And it's not just leadership when you look at politics, it's leadership that cuts across in every sphere of life. And I want us to begin from a point of understanding why it's important to have women leaders. I know it's a question that we may take for granted, but the reason why we are still struggling in accepting women as leaders and even giving them positions of influence, by that I mean we can make a woman a leader, but just a leader of a flowery position. But we need to make women have leading positions of influence. Why is it important for us to start accepting and even start supporting more women to be occupying these positions? What value should we expect from that, Betty?
I do totally believe that women have a lot to offer.
Yes.
And one of the things that I'm excited about the current government is that our government have seen that there is potential in women. And so for those women that have been given positions in this country, I am really excited because I am seeing that the future for women leadership in Kenya is getting brighter and brighter every single day. And that excites me because women have got what it takes to be leaders. And one of the things about a woman is just the way God has created us. When you give a woman something, she has the ability, the innate ability given by God to, to incubate and to take care and finally to multiply what she's given. And I think that is one of the things that I say, that we should be able to see that ability is inside the woman. And maybe what just needs to be done is, one, for women to be given that platform and that opportunity. Number two, that when also women are given that opportunity, they must stand up to be counted. Because the other challenge we have is that it's not only that women do not have all the opportunities. Of course, we still are struggling because a woman still have to work twice harder. And it's not just about an African
prove herself.
city. It is just a global issue. If you look globally in the history of, it makes news when a woman becomes something. And I can see that it is a great feature for women. And I'm saying, I'm looking for a time when women will stand up and say, I can make it, and I can do it, and I've got what it takes. So we also have a responsibility to stand up and be counted, so that when opportunity is thrown, we say, I am here, I am present, I can do it, I have got what it takes. And you prove that and demonstrate the leadership qualities that you have as a woman. So that is what I'm looking. I'm excited that we have a president, a woman president in Ethiopia right now. I mean, I was saying this is not a win just for Ethiopia. This is a win for all African women.
And it shows that we have woken up.
And shows that women can do something, and that the narrative that woman belongs to the kitchen alone and she has no ability to lead, that story is changing. The narrative is changing because we have the capacity. We have seen women have demonstrated that they have got what it takes to be leaders. And I thank God because I can see that also there are men who their mindset about women is changing, because for a woman to get there and to get to the level of being a president, men were involved. And so that excites me. But what I'm saying is that I'm encouraging women, let's come together, let's be authentic, let's build each other, let's encourage each other and build a tribe of women supporting each other so that we can be holistic. Because also there is a problem, Serfine, when we grow in our leadership positions, we grow in our careers, either politically or corporate or otherwise, and then we lose ourselves.
Yeah.
We lose who we are.
And we'll come back to that
Thank
later.
you.
But Zaynah, also to bring you into this conversation, let's go back to where the problem began. And I always like to get, the views of different people concerning this particular subject. What do you think are some of the misconceptions or beliefs that maybe society has about women that has made us take so long for us to accept all the very special qualities that Betty is talking about? If a woman indeed can lead, why has it taken us centuries to believe that as a society?
Okay. There are a couple of things, and I think the first place to begin is to celebrate. So Africa as a continent has shown remarkably that women can be in leadership positions. Currently, we have 3 countries in which 40% of the parliament are women.
Yes.
And we have
Rwanda is doing very well.
Exactly. And we have 5 countries now, including Ethiopia, who have had women presidents. This surpasses figures in a lot of different parts of the world. So that in itself demonstrates there's capacity, there's innate capacity. Coming back to what are the challenges, and they're perhaps twofold. The first is the journey of a woman inside of herself. And that journey specifically relates to, from my perspective, a journey in confidence and a journey in self-worth. And the more that we are able to, on our individual basis, get to know who we are. And sometimes it takes a willingness to deal with the pain of that transformation. That knowing and then matching our actions and our words and our external behavior to that internal knowing.
So it begins from within.
Yes.
This journey has to start from within.
And that's the concept of consciousness, the concept of the highest form of knowledge that we have being the knowledge of self, the knowledge of self-awareness. And that is where the internal strength comes from. From there, we exude to family, we exude to community, we exude to nation, to continent, and to globe.
So there is really no one you can blame. It has to start from you waking up and really analyzing yourself and getting to understand yourself as a woman, and now demonstrating that ability and power to the world for them to accept that you can be able to be in that position, to prove yourself, sort of.
Yes. One of the things that is important for us to realize is that, as I've said earlier in this show, is that being a woman is not a disability. And so it should not be treated like being a woman. You see, when a woman feels like, oh, I'm just a woman, and so you concentrate and focus your energies on whining and looking for sympathies and, to be held with kids' gloves.
Like some sort of fragile.
Yeah, you're so fragile.
Yes.
That is a problem. And I think that kind of mindset has to change and has to change from within. That as a woman, you have got the power. If we can carry babies for 9 months and we bring forth life, I totally believe that there is so much that God has put in us that should be expected from a woman. And so the woman first must accept herself, as my colleague Zaynah is saying. The problem, sometimes the danger or the challenge that can put off the fire in a woman and the power within her is not external, is mostly internal. Because what we call intra-communication, that is what you tell yourself, is more your enemy than what is being said out there. Because if you believe who you are, first you have identified yourself, you know who you are, you know your capabilities. And we say that women leaders must have the ability to know their strength and their limitations, because all of us have our limitations. So it is important for each woman leader to be aware of her strengths and her limitations, because that way, therefore, you'll know where to focus. You will maximize on your potential, on your strength, and work on your weakness or your limitation.
All right.
So it is important that that story begins with you as a woman leader.
All right. All right. Betty and Zaynah, allow me also ask you, now, because it's something that you're involved in on a regular basis, you're trying to encourage more women to come on board and be leaders and lead with courage, believe in themselves. If you look at, you know, this particular space of women in leadership, what are some of the issues that are sort of like gaps that you guys are trying to deal with right now, even as you go about conducting these, you know, one-on-ones and coming up with conferences here and there and coming up with women empowerment programs? What are the issues really that women are battling with today that you guys are trying to spearhead a direction of dealing with? Zaynah.
Well, I'll bring it back to a point that you raised earlier, and that's about, so there's no one to blame. And let's accept the fact that over hundreds of years now, the condition in which and the atmosphere in which women are expected to live and to thrive has been dominated by men. Our institutions, our education systems, everything that relates to the upbringing of a woman has its setting in a sphere that has been dominated by men. So what are we saying? We're saying that within that sphere, of course, there are certain challenges which we face. We face wanting to rise to the top and recognizing that we don't have enough support from our male peers, or we don't have enough mentorship opportunities. And still within the face of that, or we have, but even as I speak about all of that, I still keep coming back to our point, which is the power lies between us, within us. And I truly believe that, because we'll reach a certain point in our careers and we will be afraid to ask for a raise. Or we'll reach a certain point in our accomplishment and we'll be afraid to celebrate because we think, who am I to
even celebrate, to even be proud.
And so this is an experience of women at every level. And what binds us as women are our value systems, our innate wisdom, the ability to lead naturally from within.
All right. Zaynah is a strong advocate for the inner self.
Yes.
You know, it comes from within and that comes out very clearly. But she has talked about two very fundamental sort of hiccups, lack of support from men, and even looking at, you know, the spaces that would build this woman to be somebody in the society. They are occupied by men, and predominantly men are leading in these positions, education and all the areas you've touched on. And also talked about the issue of lack of mentorship. We do not have somebody to link between the women who have made it and are in these spaces and the ones that want to get into these spaces. I don't know what you can add on to that list of hiccups that would, you know, slow us down in achieving more women into leadership spaces. I mean,
some of the things that I look at just even because of the roles that women play. Because it is interesting that you could be, sometimes I see myself, we are coming from a meeting with my husband, then you'll ask me, so what are we eating today? There's nothing wrong with that. But that is expected of me to know and to organize. So women have got a lot of responsibility and so, you know, multiple roles that they play and which sometimes acts like a slowdown to, you know, sometimes to achieving certain goals or certain certain goals in life or objectives that you could be having. However, that doesn't really bother me a lot, because I think that is why MLOS Africa exists. Because these are some of the things that we are trying to do, where MLOS Africa, we come together, we have authentic conversations, and it is where we can have these conversations with men and helping the woman to get focused.
I like one thing you've mentioned, bringing men on board.
Yes.
This is not a journey that only women need to take part in.
No.
You bring men on board to achieve this kind of an initiative.
Yes.
Hold that thought. We're coming back after this particular commercial break, and we continue with this conversation. It's all about women and leadership this morning. Women at the forefront. We'll come back after the break. Do stay with us.